got too drunk and didn't want to show up.
It's, expected, really. Expected,
Working.
really, at this point. Yeah, so together we are Ballpark Music. Like I say, this is our first proper stream on the channel, so thanks for being along for the ride. We'll be broadcasting all sorts of recording sessions, mixing and mastering streams here and there. But every Friday night, we'll be getting together for some chat and a discussion about an album that came out the previous week. More on that in just a little bit here. But if you like what you see, give us a follow on the socials, and we'll let you know when we're going live. Cam, episode 1. You
Yeah,
made
man.
it. How you feeling?
Yeah, good. I've never been on camera for this long by choice, so that's a big thing for me.
Do work calls not count for that?
Do you think I ever go into them by choice?
All right, no, fair enough. I think so. Right off the top, I've got two very important questions for you.
Okay.
Number one, what are you drinking tonight?
Do you know I don't know?
That's never a good answer.
I asked wifey to pick up some beer on the way home,
Uh
and
huh.
she did, and I didn't think much more about it. It's that color. I think it's an IPA.
Okay. I
I
I don't know if it's just like the pint glass the way it is and the fact that it looks a little bit flat, but that could have definitely come out of a pump, right? Like,
Yeah, well, you've caught me, man. Thanks for telling all the millions watching that I've been breaking lockdown to go to the pub. So great. Thanks for that.
you doxed me on our first ever stream. We tested this stuff all out over the weekend, and you did successfully dox me. So I thought it was only fair that I do it back and let everybody know that you live above a pub which is still operating during lockdown.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly where I live, above the pub.
So on to that second question. Anyway, what are you vaping tonight?
Wait. Hold on. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a Goose Island Midway Session IPA. Um,
And I respect your choice because it comes from the greatest city in the world, home of the Chicago Cubs.
well, so this was sort of my thinking, right? It's ballpark. We have an affinity for baseball. So I wanted like a baseball kind of related baseball tangent soul beer to drink on the stream. And Goose Island was one that, at the very least reminds me of the Midwest. Granted, it reminds me of the worst part of the Midwest, or a part that I think is arguably not even really Midwest at all. But yeah, I figured you'd probably be doing that. I've unfortunately set my camera up in such a way that it looks like I'm wearing some sort of kimono right now.
Yeah, it's a
But it,
kimono.
it it is actually a Brewers jersey. I can't get the hat and headphones to kind of sit like just right.
No?
No, it's never been something that I've been able to do.
See, I can't go without the hat because everyone will see my massive forehead, and I don't want that.
You're making me self-conscious about my
Oh
massive
no, dude,
forehead
don't
already,
worry,
man.
dude. Like you
Jeez.
know full well, man. Mine's a full six head, so
I think you're running yourself. It's a little bit unfair. A little bit unfair.
I can
Um,
show them if they want.
take it off. Take it off. Uh,
So we're gonna get cancelled on our first stream.
we've already run off the rails before I've gotten to point two,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, go. What is point two?
And I wanted to say before we get too deep into this, but I think we've already gotten far too deep into this. It would be worth us giving a little bit of a musical background about ourselves, just kind of help set the scene a little bit, give the people an idea of who we are and where we generally sit on the musical spectrum. And Cam, I've known you for a fair few years now, and I think I generally have a pretty all right view of where you sit and what you like and maybe what you don't like when it comes to music and some of the projects you've been involved in and things like that. But I know you've got a lot more to tell on that, and especially when it comes to your influences and things.
I'll try and boil this down in two ways for you, really. I either like things that are sugary sweet and so catchy that it is painful to admit that you like it, or I like something that is just strange. You
Yep.
know, the stranger the better. I weird instruments from anywhere in the world. You know, just some weird song structure, anything like that, or just Dua Lipa, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything Dua Lipa's ever released.
That includes that includes a Calvin Harris track, right?
Oh, no problem with Calvin Harris. He
Yeah.
did that song and another one, I'm sure,
I think he
that
did a
wasn't
lot of
horrible.
songs, right? Like I think he did do a lot of songs. There are a shocking number of songs that I'm like, oh
Only
yeah,
one
it's a
I can
Calvin Harris
think
song.
of him is that Rihanna one, which always takes me back to 2012 and being in a bar in my hometown, um, and just hearing that just over and over again to that song. I can't remember what the song's called. We found love. Yeah, we found love. That one.
Oh geez, I
Yeah.
actually have got lots of flashbacks to being on where I live. There's a Weatherspoons that's like a strange Weatherspoons in that it's a handful that are actually allowed to play music because usually it has to be a Yates, I think, to play music, but like Weatherspoons aren't allowed to. But there's so many of them around by me that they have one that's allowed to play music, and there were a lot of post uni nights on that dance floor there with that exact same song playing, and
In my head right
Battlefield as
now,
well.
it's that song played all night, every night, and it was just the only one I heard the entire night. Now I don't know if that says more about me than the DJ,
Mm,
but that's all I can actually remember from those, and that's all I can remember of Calvin Harris, apart from that one Dua Lipa
yeah,
track, which slaps.
it absolutely does. There's no argument there. So how about your involvement in music, right? Any sort of projects, bands that you've been a part of, or anything else that you want to shout out?
Don't know if I should go through all the ones I went through at school. There was some questionable grindcore bands.
Nice.
Um, yeah, two drummers. No, one drummer, two vocalists, nothing else. And I won't tell you the full name, but we were abbreviated to IVP. That was a good one. That was with my
Insane
good buddies
Vampire
from the
Posse, right?
no infected, and then
Yeah,
it
cool.
goes off
Gotcha.
from there.
Gotcha. It's a good grindcore name, that is.
uh, Actually, do you know what? We were in another band around that time that had two drummers, and Brad was in this one as well. And he can't escape the shame as much as I can. Called Decomposition Chamber. I think we were actually talking about this the other week. We had a song where the bassist, I think it was the first time he ever picked up a bass, was to join that band. And he was just sat there throughout the whole song going, "Brrrr, brrrr," just constantly. That was awful.
Very nice.
And then I got super into black metal, dude. Super into black metal. Like we wore the corpse paint, and I went to Vacuum, and I bought big spikes that got taken off me by like security guard there. That was a sad moment for me. But yeah, I got super into black metal. Thought don't now, we'll caveat this now, but thought Varg Vikernes was the greatest human being on earth. Obviously have since realized Varg Vikernes is not the greatest human being on earth, and I actually quite think the opposite.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
was a huge Burzum fan. There is somewhere out there, one of our friend group has a video we made for a school project where we had to go make a music video at college, on like one of those activity weeks, you had to go away and do something. And we made a video where we were running through that college in corpse paint to a Burzum song. And if that video ever sees the light of day, I just don't think I can go on any longer because it was so bad.
I've
We
definitely.
even did an interview section.
Sorry, I think I got a little bit of lag there, so I didn't quite catch that. But yeah, I've
Uh,
heard the story of that video a number of times. I'm looking forward to eventually seeing it and it debuting on
I
maybe
don't
this
know who
channel
has a
or something
copy.
else. But
I don't
it's
know who
out
has
there,
a
man.
copy.
It's the internet. Nothing's ever dead on the internet. I'm sure, and I think on my end, um, there should be somewhere a video of me and some of my friends at our school battle of the bands playing TNT by ACDC.
Solid
Uh,
choice.
did vocals for that. That went down an absolute storm. They ended up. I think the story still was that they ended up fixing that one because we won the vote, right? But they ended up awarding the overall win to another band, and it was either like friends of the organizers or like it might have been that they were leaving the school that year or something like that. So it was like, well, it's their last chance at glory or whatever. But yeah, so we ended up coming second that year. Our cover the following year of Beat It didn't go down quite as well.
Is that
Uh,
the Fallout Boy version or the MJ version?
it was kind of a mix of both, a little bit.
Mm.
I think a lot of the musical inspiration came from the Fallout Boy one, because you know wanted to just be in a pop punk band, probably more than anything. But
You still do.
exactly, and you know I think coming back around to maybe my musical influences and things like that. I was trying to think.
Lovely segue.
And you know, the best segues are always the ones accompanied by somebody saying, "Damn, that was a great segue."
Yeah, dude.
it's the number one sign. Number one sign. But I was trying to think beforehand about this, and um, I didn't maybe grow up in like the most musical household. So, but the one thing my parents did give me was a great education in U2 and Bruce Springsteen. I then took that education and promptly applied it to my obsession when I was like a little kid was all boy bands. So my first album was a Backstreet Boys album, and then I got
Solid
super
choice.
into NSYNC all throughout that time and everything. And then like every time that I try and think back, like there's just like scene missing for me musically. I think I listened to talk radio for like 10 years. And then American Idiot came out, and that really kind of got everything going for me and developed that deep love of emo and pop punk, which I like to think that I have grown out of, but not so
Well, actually,
much.
that's the same for me, dude. We're the same age, roughly, or exactly. I can never
I
remember,
think it's
but
just about, yeah.
yeah, American Idiot for me was the one where it's this was pre the black metal and grindcore bands, obviously, but the American Idiot was the one for me where I was like, music's dope. I want to play a guitar, and then later on came the Smashing Pumpkins, and I still adore the Pumpkins to this day, as you well know. Siamese Dream, one of my all-time favorite albums. Again, I have a tendency to listen to bands with questionable frontmen, by the sounds of this stream, but not that Billy Corgan's on the same level as Varg Vikernes. I think there's several streets away. Please don't sue me, Billy. But
I'm
yeah,
trying to. I think there is a line that you can draw, but maybe, as you say, it's probably
is
not something
Bono in
to
the middle of it?
discuss publicly. Maybe, yeah. I think I found my roots as a radical centrist, where that came from. Fucking
Yeah, that's where
Bono.
it goes. Billy Corgan, Bono, Vikernes.
Yeah,
That's the scale of evil,
I
musical evil.
I like that. I like that a lot. See, I think that's probably the main difference between our probably like musical developments, though, is I hit Green Day and I was just like, yep, no, I'm happy, I'm comfortable here, and I'm just gonna sit here and listen to Green Day and Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and a little bit of MCR just for years and years and years. That was literally all my teenage years were. I think. But I did stumble across probably the biggest turning point for me musically was finding Very Fast, Very Dangerous by Ruben on a message board. I think it was like it was an American football, it was a Madden server, actually, I think it was. And there happened to be some dude from Manchester on there who was talking about Ruben, and Jamie Lenman is now probably like my musical inspiration. Uh,
Solid choice.
and then yeah, Uni came along, did a bit of Uni radio, did a little bit of DJing. Shout out to Assault and Sugar Ape, rip in peace, both of them. I specialized my sets all around pop punk and ska, which was great
I was
fun.
wondering when this was gonna come up. When were we gonna bring up Scar? Because every time I see a Scar meme, you're all I can think about. Because I have never seen anyone in 2021 have a dedication to Scar like you do.
There are people out there. There are people out there that are living it.
You and Jeff Rosenstock.
Exactly. Exactly. That's not bad company, is it? Really?
No, I love Jeff Rosenstock, but you are the only two people still trying to make ska happen in 2021.
I'm getting ready for that. Which wave are we up to now? It's like fifth,
Sixth? Is it
sixth.
fifth? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, something like
I
that.
don't
But
even know
it's
what
gonna
happened in the
happen.
first four waves, man.
Great stuff. That's all you need to know. Mighty Mighty Boss Tones are in there somewhere. You know,
I
it's all
remember
fine.
having a brief obsession with a band from California called Chase Long Beach, who
You
are a ska
showed me this.
band. And
Yeah.
I actually listened to them again a few weeks ago and thought to myself, wow, why? Why was I ever into this? Well, yep, that's just me and ska.
I think I was driving along the other day and a Goldfinger song came on in my car and it reminded me of like the song itself reminded me of that band that you sent me one YouTube video of and I was like, hey, no, yeah, this is ska. This is great. And maybe didn't think much more about it to the point that I can't remember what they were called, but yeah.
So you're saying I'm responsible for the sixth wave of ska for reminding you that ska exists?
Exactly, exactly. You know, after a pandemic or whatever, you know, there's always an outburst of creativity and partying and things like that, and it's just going to result in ska. The 20s, I'm calling it now. It's going to be the roaring ska decade.
That gives me all the more reason to want this pandemic to continue.
So yeah, and then you know you very kindly introduced me to Dua Lipa during the lockdown as well, and that's probably just changed up the way I've listened to music a little bit, much more open about this stuff now. Even still, I did spend way too much of our time locked down listening to way too much desert rock, but really, yeah, I always end up coming back to the comfort foods, but like you say, something a little bit new, something a little bit weird, something a little bit happy, sugary, etc., which I think is a great way of putting it. That's where I am at as well. So I think just very quickly before we end up getting on to the album, which we're going to be discussing
The
tonight.
reason we're here.
Exactly. It's only taken us about 20 minutes, but I think we should just give a real quick shout out to at Millie Draws a Lot on Instagram, who's designed all of the wonderful graphics that we've got on show tonight. Barring actually the stream background, which is surrounding us around here and around there right now. That was me bastardizing her work way too late last night. She's promised or offered actually to sort something a little more permanent out for us next week, which is greatly appreciated. So if you like what you see, please do go
I'll say
and give her a follow.
Millie's dope as well. She designed the logo for like pretty much every band I've been in the last 3 years. So everything I've done is just Millie
Very,
draw it.
very,
her,
very
her name is not a lie. Millie does draw a lot.
a lot. No, can confirm. Does draw a lot. So yeah, on to the album discussion. And tonight we are talking about German hardcore band Slope and their new debut album Street Heat, which came out last week on BDHW Records. Every week we'll be going through and choosing an album that came out the Friday before, give ourselves a week to listen to it, and then hop onto a stream Friday after that. I've kind of ended up mixing up the calendar a little bit. I can't go back now and save that, but we'll give ourselves a week to listen to an album that comes out on a Friday. Following Friday, we will hop on to a stream and have a discussion. We're going to take a slightly different approach to kind of your normal review, though. And I know this is something that you're very passionate about, Cam. You want to explain a little bit about that?
100%, man. Yeah, I generally feel that music isn't sports, and I don't want to bash anyone out there that's doing reviews and giving things scores, but please stop it. I hate it. Um, it's awful. I don't like this tastemaker thing. I don't like this. It's not sports. I really feel like music just needs to be discussed and talked about. People can enjoy whatever they want to enjoy without people making them feel bad that their favorite album was only a two or not good or whatever, or just stuff like that. So I really pushed for the no scoring aspect of this, and you were fully on board with that, which I appreciate. and also just making it a discussion. We're not here to like review, just here to tell you about what's in the album, what it sounds like, what we liked about it. But I'm never here to tell you an album is bad because I mean that's completely subjective.
You,
Unless you're talking about the Corey Feldman album,
the one
that's not
exception.
subjective.
It's the exception that proves the rule, right? You described it earlier as more of like an album book club, which I like
Yeah,
kind of the idea
yeah,
of.
man.
We'll sit down, we'll talk through it, we'll go through track by track, give you some thoughts up top, and we'll give you kind of a sum up at the end as well before we get out of here. But yeah, I mean, you're going to want us to hang around, considering we're going to be coming out with such hot takes as music is not sports during
Yeah,
this.
it's not. Sports is sports, and music is music, and they're not the same thing. Now, no, I don't have any more than that. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole show. Bye bye.
Whiteboard coming down or something.
Yeah. Look, have you got the graphic? Where's the tech guy? Where's the overlay guy?
Oh God, no! He's sitting here, and I think he's frying his computer already. So I will move us on instead by reading.
He's streaming Hidden Cup 4 at the same time.
You had to get one reference in, right?
I had to, man. I had to. I'm missing it right now, and I'm mad about it.
It's okay. I can tell you who's gonna win, because nobody knows who's gonna win.
Learn that. Shout out T90. Make T90 bold.
So let's get on with the press blurb and kick off with our talk about Slope here. So this is what accompanied the release. I'm going to read this verbatim from BDHW Records. So 2014, the Five Head Gang was founded in Duisburg, Germany. Deep lyrics about personal struggles, the unsatisfying situation, the feeling of getting tricked by the world, and a fuck 9 to 5 mentality are not rare to find. With that pure and honest hardcore punk attitude and the kicking groovy Slope sound, they created their own style and killed stages on festivals like Eperfest, Sound of Revolution, or Outbreak Festival, and shared stages with bands like Madball, Turnstile, Cold World, Code Orange, Terror, No Warning, just to name a few. The intent behind their music is to make people move and let go of all struggles, combining funky, groovy riffs with hard, pissed-off stomps. Slope created their own way of writing songs. No obstacles, no limits, just doing it the way that they want it to be, in a way of disrespecting all rules. In 2014, they had their debut EP, Helix, come out on Backbite Records. 2017 was the Losing Grip EP on BDHW Records. And in 2021, Slope is set to release their debut LP, Street Heat, an explosive bundle of harsh and funky tunes that make you smile and insane at the same time. Recorded at Level 3 Studios and teamed up once again with BDHW Records, this is the sponge that sucked up the gutter. This is Street Heat. Sorry, I missed that last line.
You kind of lose all the punch there.
I did.
Nice.
I did. I'm sorry. I built all that up.
All good. All good.
Now, I came to you and said we should look at this hardcore funk fusion album for our first discussion. What are you thinking when those words are said? And like, is that a genre that you would normally be up for, or maybe even thought existed, I guess?
Yeah, because I knew exactly the influences. As soon as I heard those words come out of your mouth, I knew exactly who the influences were. And I knew exactly what year this was going to take me back to, even though I wasn't alive that year. I knew I could just hear all of the films it was going to remind me of. And I was not disappointed at any point during that album. I just want to bring up one thing. Do you remember? I think it was Wednesday or something. I texted you, or maybe even earlier than that. I texted you just saying, "Oh, I'm going to give the album a casual listen right now." And then 2 minutes later, I was like, "There is no casual listening to this album. It's just not possible at all. It's a tour de force from start to finish. It really is."
It's a really, really good way of summing it up. I think you can't casually listen to this album. It's 33 minutes of pretty in your face action throughout. There's a couple of little uh, instrumental interludes which slow things down. There's a little bit of tempo change here and there, but it is full on. I am somebody who really enjoys some hardcore music from time to time. It's something that I've fallen off of a little bit because it tends to be so sort of formulaic. So I'm a little bit wary sometimes going into something. But as soon as you say, okay, we're going to throw some funk in there as well, I'm like, okay, oh, I'm listening. And definitely ended up listening to this album a few times. A few times. Should we kick through it track by track?
Yeah, man, let's go. Let's do
So
it.
we have got Upbeat is the first song on there. That's one of those instrumental tracks that I was talking about
I
there.
I wrote one note about this track, and it's actually a question for you.
Okay.
Did this throw you off to what you thought this album was going to be? This instrumental interlude.
It did, actually. I think as soon as you hear sort of like that real drony kind of bass and everything building up and swirling noise and everything, I'm like, oh god, is this going to be like super serious? I think is maybe the vibe that I was getting from it. And I think
Yeah,
I didn't necessarily expect that from reading about the band and from seeing even the album cover and everything else there. So I did think that. I think the one thing that really stood out to me, obviously, was like that really aggressive panning left and right that you had
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I listened to this on it was on a Bluetooth speaker the first time that I listened to it. So that didn't pick up there. And then I stuck some headphones on, and it's just like, oh, all right, no, like really, like actually maybe physically throwing me off a little bit because it's proper aggressive, but
I
it's
think the kids call that 8D sound these days.
AD sound,
8D, 8D sound,
8D,
eight
8D.
dimensional sound. But people that just do music and are older just call that automated panning. You know, up and down, left and right. But yeah, it can be a really great tool in music for especially for intros. I think a lot of people use it. There's a
Mm,
classic Dark Throne album where it's on the intro, and the first time I listened to that, I was terrified. So yeah, I love that kind of thing. But I really thought this was going to be a doom metal album
yeah,
when I heard that intro. I was full on expecting doom, and I kind of got it in some places. We'll go into that in a bit, obviously, but
I got
I
that.
kind of got what I was looking for out of that.
I think we'll probably, or I don't know if you will, but I will end up saying hardcore and funk a lot throughout this as we go through. There is so much more to this album than that. Like
That's
musically,
100%. Yeah.
like you say, there's a lot of different influences flying around. There's a few other like clear nods to other genres there, and I totally get that kind of doomy thing.
Mm.
That goes on there. But yeah, we kick into Truth Machine after that. So I think within context, looking at Upbeat, it does a really good job of building that tension up, like you said, using that 8D. And then Truth Machine just kind of grabs you straight by the face and gets you into the album, right?
100%. And you start to get a hint of what's all the elements that are going to make up this album on this intro track. You've got that kind of funky bass coming in a little bit. You've got that kind of hardcore riff with it, and you hear the vocals, and instantly you're thinking Mike Patton,
Yep.
Anthony Kiedis, someone like that. A guy whose name I can't remember from Suicidal Tendencies, but that is exactly where
Oh, I
you're
should know
taking
that.
to. Um, that's exactly what you're expecting from the description of the album, and yeah, it's straight there. You get a hint of everything this album is going to encompass within the first 30 seconds of that intro track.
And I wrote down the same thing, right? It's all those good hardcore tropes. You got nice pounding drums. You got a little build to like it's not a full on breakdown in this song, but a little something there. And the gang vocals, you always need that, right?
Yeah, constant theme throughout this. I just want to give a shout out right now, actually, to I'm sorry if I butcher this name, but Dominic Paraslevopoulos. I'm guessing he's a Greek guy, and I really struggle with Greek names. Who I'm guessing is the guy that mixed it and mastered it and all that good stuff from Level 3 Studios. I was blown away by the sound of this thing. I can't remember the last time I heard a record that sounded so vintage and modern at the same time, so raw but so clean, and just it just sounded so lively. There was so much life to everything. Everything was clear, crystal clear. You could hear everything left to right, center, kicks coming through, bass coming through. There's like a warm hug there, and just it was a masterclass in mixing. This thing. It really was just all over. It sounded great.
So I'm somebody who's still very much at the beginnings of their journey when it comes to music production and mixing and mastering things like that. I'm picking up some stuff here and there, and I think I'm listening to music a little more critically in that regard now. But I probably wouldn't be able to pick out good things. I'm kind of at that stage where I can pick out bad things, maybe.
Mm.
And that was definitely something that struck me about this was that like the very basic part of me went like, no, this sounds very nice, but I couldn't pick out any problems there. And I know that there's a few things like especially like actually the drum sound, which there's one or two tracks where that really stands out that I really enjoyed across the board there. So yeah, definitely that Level Three
I
Studios did a good job.
I can't prove this, but I guarantee that guy that mixed this has a philosophy of just keep it as simple as
Mm.
possible. Get good sound at the source, you know, so you don't have to EQ or compress too much, and everything's just clean audio. Every take is great, every performance is great, that kind of thing. So a lot of credit's got to go to the band for that as well, because obviously it's their songs and stuff like that, and they got to perform it on the day. But yeah, it just you could tell it's just such a simple process, but it just comes together so nicely.
And granted, a couple of EPs under their belt, but at the end of the day, this is their debut album. I think
I couldn't
what
believe that when I read that. I thought
it's
this was a band 5 or 6 deep, honestly.
absolutely that's a really great achievement. And so Purple Me's the next track. That was one of the singles off of this album, and I think you listen to it and you can understand why. The track isn't like necessarily one of my favorites on here, but it does a really good job of showing off everything that's going to end up happening in this album and everything that it's got to offer. It goes in hard at the start, and then it transitions into that spacey like I've written down like 80s cop show interlude that appears in a couple
Yeah.
of places on this album. It sends me there every time. But it's all summed up there on Purple Me.
I have 2 questions for you about this track. One, did you watch the video?
I didn't. I've seen some screenshots from it, and about an hour ago, I was like, I should watch the two videos, and I didn't.
So I didn't watch the other one, but I did watch this one, and I watched it 3 times in a row because I had no idea what that video was about. There's a guy with a rock for a head, and he, I don't know, he's like stressed or he's mad about stuff or whatever, but that's pretty much it. And then you start looking into the lyrics, and it's just I'm a funky monkey with a lighter in my hand, and I'm just getting again these huge early Red Hot Chili Pepper vibes
Yep.
before try that again. Blood, Sugar, Sex, Massive. Oh my god, I can't say that album. That one with Under the Bridge on.
Yep.
um, yeah, that album. Like things like Fight Like a Brave and stuff like that. Where the lyrics are just so kind of the surrealism, and it hasn't dawned on me at this point yet. But there's another band that I'm going to really start to think of in a couple of songs' time, and I couldn't believe that I didn't think of this band beforehand. But yeah, at this point in time, I'm just thinking the lyrics, the video, the visuals, everything. It's just got no it's straight to 1988. It really is. You're in a you're in a video on Jay and Silent Bob at that kind of vibes. That time period, 98 to 93 kind of thing. It just all of that good stuff. But yeah, you're right, man. It's like 5 seconds in, you start to get the bass. You get
Yep.
that thrash metal verse kind of thing where it's breaking down into like more funk just after that.
Yep.
And then 2 minutes in, you get that build up straight into a riff that's so 90s it hurts. Like there's no other decade that riff should exist in but the 1990s. But yeah, here we are in 2021, and somebody's bringing back this style that kind of gets a little bit forgotten about from that time period. Loved it. Huge punctuating symbols on that as well. Just absolutely massive wall of sound there. And Yeah, you just get everything. You get their hardcore roots, you get their thrash metal influence, you get that kind of funk that you'd expect from the Chili Peppers influence and stuff like that. It's just awesome. This song, I loved it. I really loved this song.
And a lot of those influences are really clear to see. I think that it comes through on the rest of the album, but they all go into this track. I think from my end, one thing I have to talk about, and I'm going to try not to talk about it when we go through pretty much every song on this album because it's on most of them. But I love a good like oh ah like they're
Yeah,
doing that so much throughout the chorus. Like as soon as it hit that there, it was like, okay, I'm along for this ride. I'm gonna have fun, and it was good. Like I say, probably not my favorite on there, but a great example. I think if somebody was to say like, what's Slope, you stick Purple Me on, and it's like it's all there, and then you can go to the rest of the album to maybe pull out the bits where they do things a little um, a little better maybe in isolation, I guess is what
yeah,
I'd say. And yeah, we start slowing everything down towards the end of that song. You get that real chunky kind of outro, and then you got a little bit of a solo sitting over the top. um, Train Surfing comes on next. And if Purple Me was kind of maybe the one where I'm like, all right, I'm along for the ride, Train Surfing, I'm going to show my hand, I think, a little bit about my opinion of this album as a whole here, but this was the one where I was like, okay, fuck, I want to see Slope live, and I want to see them live now. I want to get two step in a pit right now.
it's interesting you say two step there because this song actually, and I'm not the hugest fan of this band, but I can't deny they have some groovy riffs. But this is the first time in this album, and it's not the only time that I get huge Pantera vibes.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
I can hear Dimebag playing those riffs, kind of thing. You know, that kind of. And like I said, I'm not the hugest Pantera fan, for reasons, but I just get those huge, those two riffs at the beginning for more than anything else in this album really gave me massive Pantera vibes. But then over the top of that, and this is what we were saying at the beginning, that this album is not just a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band or an early, like a Faith No More copy or whatever. There's just so many influences coming from everywhere on this. Again, I'm back to Mike Patton with the vocals. You've got that whole thing going on, gang vocals again
mhm.
going on, but with this Pantera vibe and this absolute groove kind of thrash metal thing going on underneath it. Is I guess that's what hardcore is really. I suppose when you boil it down to it, but
Yeah,
it felt different. You know, it felt different to some generic hardcore or something like that.
this was probably one of two of the tracks where I definitely wrote down like thrash, right? And I haven't got a great sort of frame of reference for that. But it definitely moves on. Like it's another step sort of beyond hardcore, I would say, or what you would normally expect from a hardcore song. And the other thing that they do on Train Surfing is you get a tempo shift in a few places, which I think they use really effectively throughout this album. Um, it wasn't on this track. I'm gonna probably kick myself when I get to the one in my notes where I recognize it. But I do at times almost get like a math rock kind of vibe off of that, and I am always down for a little bit of math rock here and there.
So I don't get any math rock from it. I know what
Mm.
you're saying. There's tempo changes, massive ones at that, and there's also time signature changes halfway through songs that are, you know, normally I'd be sat there trying to work out what they are, or like just listening to them, like, oh, that's 3/4 or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. Just like trying to get really into it. This album never asks you to do that, even though it's there.
Yeah,
That's one of the things I really loved about it. I never at one point did it feel pretentious or did it feel like, and this song was a great example of it because it's just so thrashy and so groovy that yeah, tempo change happens, but who cares? It's just there because it's there, and it doesn't really matter. It could have not been there, it could have been there, but it's just showing this level of musicianship as well that comes through on this album and really starts to
yeah.
come through later on. The is just building and building with each track.
And I think if I'm going back and saying, Purple Me, that was the one that you show somebody and say, okay, this is this is what slope are, then I'm fine. For me is the one that I'm sending them to next after that. Like, this to me is the point where it totally solidified, like, okay, no, I am definitely going and seeing the slope show, as soon as that's something that can happen. We go back from, you've got that real heavy hardcore at the end of the last song, and then we're back into our TV cop show funk, which is executed really well. Um, and then the vocals kick in on this one. I love the cadence that they've got. It's so bouncy. It just fits it perfectly. And then you've got the bass kicking in. Like, the bass is standout across this album. Really, really good. But this is the track that I think is the one where it really, like, it hits its peak. On this one, you've got like real nice bit of slap in there. Carries the whole song, and we get a lot of kind of the switching of the styles in this one, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And so this is the point where I reveal where this album is really starting to give me visions of, and the band that I couldn't believe I didn't immediately think of when I first heard this album, of Primus. It's
Yeah,
Primus all over this
yeah.
track, but in a way that's, it's not, pastiche, or it's not just a straight up copy or anything like that. Again, it gives me that feeling, but they're definitely Slope. They're definitely their own thing.
Mm,
They would sit so nicely within that genre, within that group of bands that do this kind of music, and not just be seen to be one of those. And again, this is where I'm starting to think, man, I want to see this band live.
yeah.
And they're going to be one of the ones I look out for when we can go back to gigs and stuff like that.
So, there's a lot of distinct, I think, shifts between that hardcore and funk on this one. Um, it made me feel at times like I was trying to keep up a little bit, but it's so effortless in the way that they do it that it's never jarring. It all builds so well, never really manic. And then at the same time, you've got the lyrics going, like, you're a fucking fanatic, I'm a fucking fanatic, you're a fucking fanatic, all that, and building up the whole way. I think it's handled so well, so well.
This is the point where people are going to start to learn that we have the same brain, because I have written in my notes here. And at this point, I'm genuinely surprised at how cohesive this record is, because it's so chaotic.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But at no point am I lost on what it is or what it's for. So yeah, I had exactly the same thoughts, pretty much word for word. Apart from obviously we speak slightly differently.
I think if it was handled in any other way, it would be eclectic, right? But this is
Mm.
something that I think if you tried to apply eclectic to this, it would be a little bit of an insult. It's
Uh,
obviously so clearly kind of formulated.
It's
Um,
well, it's, yeah, it's one of those, man. It's like it pulls from so many places. It's got, like we've said before, thrash, the funk, whatever, but it does them all in such a, like, they're key elements to the song, that it never feels like they're just on the fringes for no reason. um they're there for a reason. They're there for the song, and they all work really nicely together. It's been proven that these things work together before,
yeah, yeah,
many
yeah,
great
for sure.
albums with these elements, but it just felt something slightly sort of almost unique about this one, that was kind of punctuating
My last note on that track is just more of this, basically.
that.
Love it, absolutely
Yeah.
love it. And we do get a little bit of a chance to catch our breath then on Fluid. I think after that, it's another instrumental little interlude here. Some more of that tempo shifting. And probably a good time to specifically shout out the drumming on this record. And this was the one where I was talking earlier about maybe the sound really stood out to me on this track. But the drumming's at a really high level to my ear throughout this. Very exciting. The sound is great. I don't have any complaints about the sound of the other instruments or anything, but the drums, it was just like, yep, no, really good. And maybe it's just because I've been listening to a lot of stuff, and I'm not throwing shade at anything in particular, but like where it's very clear that it is a computer noise there. It was just like, no, this sounds really good, and it's obviously been set up in a really nice way.
Yeah, yeah. Drummer is absolutely phenomenal, but this is actually the peak of the bass for me on this album.
Okay.
And I want to go back again, and this is gonna tell everyone basically what I look for when I'm listening to an album these days. But I want to go back to the production again on this bit of bass, man. It's it just feels like it's hugging this really nice, dreamy bit of guitar. It's giving it all the space it needs, and then it's just on the fringes, just on the outside, and it just creates this like perfect, perfect layer of sound that goes. You can hear everything so clearly, but everything's got its own space and it's all cohesive. It's like all tight and it's just so good. It's so fluid, for lack of a better word. It's amazing. And then, it's punctuated by those like sort of 2 bar lines where the time signature changes. And,
Mm-hmm.
like I was saying to you earlier, normally I'd want to work that out, but this album just never asks you to do that. Never asks you to think too much about it. It's just there to make it groovy or whatever.
So we start kicking again with high level. I definitely noted down about the gang vocals on this one, the how, and I'm a sucker for that. I absolutely loved it. Stuck in my head. I think like if I'm going away and thinking about this album, it's that how is just what's stuck in my head, like the oral memory of this. And I tell you what I suck at though is actually being able to pick out lyrics. I think from a first few listens of an album, I was really disappointed that I wasn't able to go and read in a couple of places what was actually on this song because I really would have liked to see that. There was enough that I was picking out there where it's like this is actually really interesting what they're writing about, but I couldn't get it just from listening out there. But yeah, it's another really solid song, I think.
I stopped trying to pick out lyrics at a certain point, honestly, because
Yeah.
I just couldn't tell. They were never clear enough in any place for me to, really get a full picture. So I would like that as well, but I just stopped after a while and just started enjoying the sound. I want to say about this song, usually at this point in this album, if I'd heard this song, I'd be thinking, all right, this is the format. I kind of get it. We've heard this song sort of 3 or 4 times before now. But again, it's just it fits so nicely here after the last track where it's this calm interlude, kind of just instrumental, or very little vocal. I'm trying to remember whether there was any vocal on it now, but I don't think there
Mm,
was.
yeah.
And it's just a this is the point where I was sort of saying to you, I could not believe that this was their first album, because the track listing and things like that were just incredible. To go from that kind of interlude and knowing you had a song like this that was quite similar to the first sort of 4 or 5 songs on the album, knowing that you had that break into this is just absolute perfect track listening for me because otherwise this song would have just been whatever. And maybe we'll get that a little bit later on. But at this point, I think I would have stopped listening. Maybe if I was just listening to this as a, wasn't having to listen to the full thing, I might have stopped listening at that point if it had just been that. But I wanted to listen on, and boy, I was glad I did.
I think I might just I would push back on that myself because I I started to feel the same thing at maybe the start of this song, right? Like the first half, I'm trying to think whether this was one of the ones that was like a couple minutes long, and a lot of the songs on this record are only a couple of minutes long, but there's a real step change towards the end. And we were talking a lot about some of the influences. I think this is the one where like it turns into almost like a hair metal track, I think, towards the end.
Yeah,
Between some of the harmonies that they get going on and the solo ripping as well. It's something different towards the latter half of this track, which is probably for me, if that didn't happen and it was a little bit more similar there, then you would start to think, okay, no, we've heard this song a few times, but again, it's just something a little bit different that we've got to play with there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, there's one sort of influence that we haven't kind of mentioned before now that think we should bring up now. Um, that does is on this track a little bit. Was huge at the end of Purple Me, and that's Sabbath. Like, these boys
Yeah,
obviously love Sabbath
yeah.
so much because there were bits where I'm like, oh, hold on, am I listening to Sabbath right now? And yeah, again, it's just another influence I'd just forgotten about until just now. We were sort of talking about their influences coming in. It's just pulled from over here, it's pulled from over here, and it just makes this whole thing absolutely great. I wasn't sort of saying that like it was a bad song or anything like
No,
that,
no, no,
or it could
no.
have been a bad song. I'm just sort of thinking by this point that the format is established, and you know me, man. I'm always looking for. I would have loved it if they just went and did like 40 minutes of psychedelic, trance after that or something like that. Yeah, I think that would have been great. But yeah, I'm glad they went the route they did because yeah, I'll let you introduce the next song.
So yeah, we're on to Skunks, and I think, like I said, we end up with 3 minutes 20 on this one. It's one of the longer songs on the record, and I think going through my notes on this one, another strong drums track, but we get that little line in the middle, and I might end up going off on a little bit of a tangent here. There's that line, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the Slope Gang, right? Um, that reminded me, and they weren't the first to do it. It only reminded me of this because I'd seen a post earlier today, but it reminded me of Johnny Sniper by Shikari. Um, Take to
Ah,
the Skies came out on this day in 2007. That is
oh, I'm
a
old.
14-year-old album, which seems absolutely obscene. Uh, but yeah, what are we feeling about the Slope Gang? Right? Are they the band themselves, or is this like an Idols Afghan setup that we've
No,
got
it's
going on
hardcore,
here?
man. Slope gang,
Yeah,
it's their street crew, it's that kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking this is going for, and I
yeah,
love that because I really forgotten that like that kind of thing was a thing because I haven't been anywhere near a hardcore scene for 10 years. I haven't been anywhere near one, and I forget that it's that kind of thing. I just want to say about this song that for me, this is the absolute highlight of this album.
yeah.
This is for me my absolute favorite track on it, and for one reason alone. Do you think you've ever heard a groove more satisfying than
It's
that song?
so good. It is so good,
It's
so
so
good.
good. It's that dun, 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 dun. It's so satisfying. And I honestly, when I first heard this, I was like, hold on, what did I just listen to? And then when you just sat there like kind of bobbing your head a little bit to the song. I was just no there was no just bobbing my head a little bit
Yep,
to this song. It was full on. What is that?
yep.
I don't really want to say much else about this song because you just need to go listen to it for that groove alone. It's just perfect, honestly. It's just absolutely perfect.
I will say I think we can draw a line under it. But some of the writing towards the end, even though it is just as simple as sticking to fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck you too, it's really really well executed when you get to the no more excuse. I really really enjoyed it. Like, proper vibes, great song. I don't know if it's high praise or not. I don't mean it as an insult, but it was one of my favorites to be doing the washing up to, I think, on this album. Really, really suited that well. And
I
yeah,
could
then,
see that actually. I
yeah,
could really see that. You're just scrubbing away your dish like,
yeah,
this goes hard.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
We got Mood Swing 87 up after that. We're back onto our little bit of our cop show guitar there.
See, I don't know if this is how I thought I was gonna feel after high level, but this is the point where this album not become no, it doesn't become bad by any means, but just falls down a little bit for me because by this time definitely, and after the absolute just crescendo that is that amazing groove from the last song, um, it's again it's more of the same. Like the energy there, the feels there, the
Mm-hmm.
qualities there. It just absolutely never lets up. but I just felt like, where do you go from here? Like, is there another gear? Is there something different? Or, you know, there's still great elements. Don't get me wrong. Vocals, absolutely incredible. The bass sounds huge. The guitar sounds phenomenal. It's got some wah and like phaser in these next two tracks coming up and stuff like that. But I'm just wanting to see a little bit more development at this point. That's the only criticism I can give this album, is I just want a little bit more development, because I feel like we've had these songs before, but better early in the album.
No, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that, and I know when we move on to the next track, Power Shift, um, I I started to hit the point where there was nothing more that I would necessarily pick out um, from this track as standout, having spoken about all the things that we've spoken about in the previous ones. Um, it's also, interestingly, I think, the last three tracks of this album do make up nearly a third of the album. So this one clocks in at about 4:18. You've got a 2-minute one after that, and then you've got another 4-minute one to close. Um, the only real thing on Power Shift that I will say, and it's probably one band that we haven't picked out when we've been talking about the influences, but there's a lot of like Beastie Boys, I think, that you can pull out of some of the stuff on the throughout the record. I think definitely on Purple Me, I wrote down a little bit of Beastie Boys. There was a couple of other places where I did too, um, but for this one, I think it felt to me like this was probably like their love letter to Beastie Boys. Was this one? The one specific section of the guitar that I swear could have been sampled almost straight from Cancer Bat's cover of Sabotage, right? And I guess that's just because I was thinking Beastie Boys and hardcore there, but
Yeah, yeah.
that was the main thing that I picked out there.
It's so weird, because now you say that, I can hear the Beastie Boy influences on this album, but at no point during my listening to it did I ever once think of the Beastie Boys.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's a rule I kind of stick to for my general day to day life, that I tend not to think about the Beastie Boys that much. But um, yeah, I never actually, I can see what you're saying, especially with maybe like Sabotage or something like that. But I don't know. I don't really feel like the vocals. I kind of got that high pitched, and there's still that kind of Brooklyn accent, so I don't really feel like I'd hear the Beastie Boys from that
No,
or
fair
anything.
enough.
But maybe the Sabotage kind of riffs and things like that would come into it a little bit. Yeah,
I,
I can kind of see that, especially with the gang chants and stuff like that throughout.
it's the gang chants and maybe some of the backings for me that start to lift that up and
Mm.
bring that through a little clearer there. Um,
I will say, on the flip side of my earlier criticism, or very sort of soft criticism of these two tracks, is, like I've said many times throughout this album, there's absolutely nothing pretentious about it. So maybe I'm completely, there doesn't need to be any development here. Um, but it's it just is what it is to be anymore.
I'm gonna say, unfortunately, I think the connection just dropped out a little bit. So
That's all good. I'm back now. I can hear you.
all I ended up actually getting there was trying to pull back your criticism, as you put it, and then nothing. So
Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna clip this, I'm gonna send it straight to them. It's just like, here you go. This is somebody who very clearly hates your music.
I'm
Not
sorry.
even
I'm
ashamed of
sorry. They wouldn't have got this far into the video.
it. That's why I'm
No
clipping it
chance.
out. This is a highlight, you see.
They didn't respond to the tweet. They're not gonna.
So we start moving on now to the last couple of tracks on the album. I got Fuel and Wag the Dog down here. Anything you want to pick out?
um, yeah, this is where the doom metal elements start coming back
Hmm.
in for me. And just again further showcasing this band's ability to pull from just about every genre that existed in 1988. Um, they really can. It's like they took that year, looked at every song that was released, maybe in the alternative charts or something like that, and just pulled one core element for each of them and decided to put it on this record. And this actually picked back up for me at this point. I started getting more interested again
Mm-hmm.
in this album at this point after the last two tracks. But yeah, you get some doom in here. You get that kind of thing going on, and more Sabbathy sort of feels and that kind of thing. I couldn't pick out anything specific doom like any specific doom band they might sound like or anything like that, but just very doomy elements. Maybe something like Sleep. Um, but yeah, that kind of vibe came back in, and it was just such a nice respite after the last two tracks. I really like the way this album has kind of two songs on, like one song off kind of thing all the way throughout.
And then we close her out with Wag the Dog at that point.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is the perfect end. Honestly, this is the kind of song, the Kong, no, the Donkey Kong. Just think I've lost it. No, this is the kind of song. You know that kind of feeling. I tried to write this down and describe this, but I really don't know. You know that kind of feeling when you're coming to the end of a show, or like you're just coming out of the cinema, where you feel like you're just being eased back into reality.
Yes.
This is what this song kind of gave me back. It starts to slow down. You start coming out of this kind of crazy experience back to reality and get some context of what this album has just put you through. You still got these like complex rhythms and some of the insanity of earlier, but I like the song structures and stuff like that. But just so much more gentle, and it kind of just slowly lets you back into planet Earth and not on Slow Planet.
And I would wholeheartedly agree there. I think you talk about that very clear sort of ending that you've gotten, as you say, slowing everything back down. But for me, the wild thing was I would hit this track, I would know that it's ending. So, again, distinct enough there. Um, but because it's like 33 minutes long, I would just kind of go, okay, well, I don't actually want this to end now, so I'm just gonna listen to it again, and it's really good for that. I think it's something that you can just kind of stick back on repeat, get back going through it, just go back through and go, okay, all right, no, I want to get back to, or was it, which was the one that, no, and I'm fine, and
I'm gonna give a hard gonna give a hard disagree on that because I really felt like I needed a break,
fair
just a
enough,
half an
yeah,
hour or something, and then I can get back on it
I would,
because that album, and it's the perfect length by the way, because it's 33 minutes long, and I think if it was any longer, I just wouldn't have been able to listen to it in sort of one go because it's so intense in some places. There's so much going on, and I really loved this kind of just lull back into reality. And then I like half an hour later, I might want to listen to it again. In fact, I did several times do that, kind of listen to it back to back, but I always took that little break,
yeah.
kind of in between. So I have no, you're a madman. I have no idea how you
I'm
actually.
so much, yeah. I'm self-destructive. That's what it is, right? I
Yeah,
just want that continued, like, just keep hitting me in the face, man. Just keep doing it.
yeah, that's what it is. It's like being punched in the face,
That,
but in the best way
in a
possible.
good way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
good
yeah.
way. Like you're really enjoying it. You're having a great time. We're not here to judge you. It's 2021. No king shaming,
Exactly.
grandma.
No kink shaming. No kink shaming. And I think as we start transitioning to summing up here a little bit, so you said that this is probably the perfect length for this album. I would agree, definitely there, and not just because I can sit back down and go back through it again. I was actually scrolling through their socials earlier today, and I noticed that they posted a little while back that this album was originally supposed to be 16 tracks long and have a runtime of around 52 minutes. And as we say, the finished article clocks in around 33, but it's worked out really, really well. To me, maybe you can argue some of the things towards the end are a little bit fillery. I always found something that was interesting about every single track there, and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Same. I mean, even those songs where I was a little bit like, I wish there was a little bit more development. I could find elements like you where I was like, oh, that's a nice, there's some wah on the guitar that I haven't heard before at this
Yeah.
point, or there's a solo going on in the background that sounds kind of crazy, but I can't properly hear it or whatever.
I
Yeah, so I was exactly the same. I really enjoyed this record. I didn't know fully what to expect. Well, no, I did know what to expect going into it, but I wasn't prepared for how much I'd enjoy it because it's not a genre I'm particularly into in a lot of ways, or haven't been for a while
Yeah.
anyway. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Um, I think what they do very well, and it was something that I set up a little bit earlier, but it never ends up going too formulaic for me. And the other thing that you can bump into when you're taking a couple of distinct kind of sounds and trying to put them together, or indeed going through and, like you were saying, sticking very closely to your like 80s, 90s influences, is that you can just start chucking things in that sound gimmicky or whatever. It's never overly reliant on sort of the sprinkles just for the sake of it. It does to me feel like very considered throughout, and then they executes it so well, so well. Um, yeah,
Agreed.
and like I said, I do enjoy some hardcore from time to time, but fell off of that because again, it's just kind of sticking to the usual formula. Like I was sat up, I was listening throughout this. I wasn't skipping tracks. I wasn't just going, I've got to get through this because we're listening to it. It's really good, really really good. What we were saying about our no scoring earlier, but one thing that we do want to maybe say is this something that you would add to your rotation? So you, as somebody who doesn't come to this genre usually, or you knew what it was there, would you add Street Heat to your rotation?
So I actually want to expand on this a little bit further because I think there's two questions that we should ask at this point. One, would you add it to your rotation? And two, would you go see this band live? And we've covered that earlier. We would. I would not even hesitate for a second to go see this band live.
Yeah,
You know it's going to be fun. You know it's going to be wild. Um, and you know they're going to bring it. You know there's no half measures with this band at all. They're not going to have an off night. It's just going to be full on every night. So yeah, don't even really need to ask you that one because I know. Would I add it to my regular rotation? I think this is a very time and place album.
mm.
Um, for example, like if I'm just out on a walk, I don't think it. Again, it depends. If it's a nice sunny day and I'm vibing,
Yeah.
probably yes. If I'm just chilling, if I'm working or something, maybe not. But if I want to get hyped up for anything, I'm probably gonna stick this on in future. Buy the record, probably would buy the record.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would go into my regular all time top albums that I always listen to, but it definitely go into a regular rotation for a while and be one that I pick out every now and then to go, yeah, that's a dope album.
So you said time and place a little bit. And I don't know if it's just because we had a little bit more sun this week, but there were a number of occasions where I would be listening to this, I would be looking out the window, and I would just be going, I cannot wait to be sitting out there, have a few friends around for a barbecue or something like that. Everybody's in shorts, there's shit lager everywhere, and stick this record on because it's so much fun. It's definitely around that. I would have this in my rotation. I would definitely buy it as well, and that's not just because looking through their website, they have got some really really cool looking vinyl for this. Some nice color
I didn't actually
combinations
have a
there.
look.
Take a
Yeah,
look. Definitely
yeah.
take a look. There's some
I
nice
didn't
looking
have a look.
ones. Yeah, what a great debut album to have under your belt, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and
I
honestly, great pick for the first one we're doing because
complete accident.
complete accident, but what a pick, man! It was awesome.
I think I got
Um,
2 tracks in, and it was
yeah.
like, yeah, no, I think this is. We were looking at a couple of other things that I had to listen to a couple of tracks. I was like, but
Did we
yeah.
make a mistake by not going with Selena Gomez?
No. Absolutely not. So I was trying to think about the picks for next week. I was confused about whether she was this week or next week, but yeah, no, you're right. It was this week. No, definitely. I'm so glad because I would have missed this. I think if we weren't doing this, to be honest with you, and I would be very upset knowing what I know now if I had actually skipped over this.
Hundred
To be
percent, dude.
honest.
This wasn't even on my radar until
Yeah.
you brought it up, and I'm really glad you did because I had a blast listening to it. Honestly, it's so much fun. Even now, I'm just like after an hour and 10 minutes of talking about it, I'm like I kind of want to listen to it again now. You know what I mean? Kind of get it on, just be like, yeah, this is good.
We'll have a post stream listening party, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I can get into my shorts and turn the LEDs up even higher than they are and pour shit lager everywhere because I think I've got
You
some
did
shit
describe a
lager
very dad-sounding party,
in.
So in my head, I was thinking like a kegger. We're all still 19. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I mean,
Like we're gonna mow our lawn in our Birkenstocks or something.
it's all my friends there. I don't know, dude. This is the fucking curse. Married, mortgage, all that shit. Like that's what happens. That's the next fucking step. So,
R.I.P.
Who
We've lost you
knows?
forever.
Yeah, yeah. Slope, please keep me here. And yeah, if you liked what we were talking about here and you think it's piqued your interest, you can head over to slopegang.com. They've got a kind of Spotify thing embedded right there on the page, so you can have a listen through the album, and all of their socials, etc., are available there. Uh, I think we are right around the time where we can be wrapping up. Have you got any final thoughts you want to talk us through, or anything else to add in?
No, what are we doing next week, or have you not decided yet?
I sent a doc, and there was lots of options available to us. I haven't maybe necessarily decided yet. I had to listen to a couple of the albums then and there. I can pull up the doc now, and we can go through, and you can pick blind if you want.
Oh, we're gonna pick live, are we? Okay, let's pick
We
live.
can do. Let me see if I can find the link. Figure out the right place
I'm
that
sorry
we
I
put it
missed
in.
this one. You sent me a lot of links today.
I did send you a lot of links. I did feel very bad because I sent you the link not long after sending you the run order for this show. And I think you thought I was just sending you that again because you said, "Yeah, no, it looks good to me, man." It's like, I don't think you opened that. I think you thought it was something else.
No,
Uh-oh.
because the reason is because when I opened that link before, it took me to like not the app version. It took me to like the Safari version or whatever. So I went and just opened it in the
Ah,
app because we have a shared folder for all this.
indeed.
That's why I was like, oh yeah, it looks good. I thought you changed it or something, but obviously you hadn't. And no, I obviously didn't read the link you shared.
That's my bad. So I've kind of I've split them up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
You have got a few rock bands here. You've got Black Honey with Written and Directed. I had to listen to a couple of tracks off that earlier. That sounded interesting. Ego Kill Talent, The Dance Between Extremes, out today. Sorry, I should probably say just off the top of this, these are all albums which have come out today, so we'll take a pick. We may take a pick here, we may take a pick off if I just keep reading through band names and you're like, I don't know, but who knows? We might get something a little bit later and you might have your mind made up. So we'll give ourselves that week with this album, and then we'll come back this time next week, and we will run through it together, have a discussion like we've done tonight. The Blue Stones, Hidden Gems, album out today. Papa Roach, Greatest Hits Volume 2, The Better Noise Years.
That's it. That's it. We're
You want
done. This
that?
doesn't need this to know. Obviously not.
I think it was just maybe the sheer surprise that Papa Roach have got enough for
What's
two volumes of greatest hits, and then they've gone and
You know
called this
why?
one the Better Sound Years.
You've got to let me make this joke, man. You know why they're making the greatest hits, right?
Go for it.
There's no money. I'm sorry. I
I
couldn't
think they
help
do
it,
all
man. I
right
couldn't
though.
help it.
They had an album out not that long ago.
Did they really?
There were oh maybe it was a little while ago because I was just thinking it made it in one of the singles off it. It wasn't great, but it made it into my lifting playlist. And then as soon as I said that, I realized I haven't been in the gym for a year, so maybe it was a little while ago.
Do you even
Um,
lift, bro?
no, no, not at all. Metal albums, I've got Era with Era, Depths of Hatred with Inheritance. Saxon had an album out today.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I've seen Saxon
Inspirations.
live, you know.
I think I have too. In Darker Days at Rock City, funnily enough.
Shout out Rock
No,
City.
apparently today was a good. Well, it was a big pop day for albums as well.
Lana Del Rey's album got released today. I know that. Was it called Chemtrails Over the Country Club?
That's right. And Justin Bieber had an album out called Justice as well.
Justice for Justin. I don't really fancy listening to the Justin Bieber album. I wouldn't necessarily be against the Lana Del Rey album because I really, really liked Norman fucking Rockwell.
Uh, you know what? Let's go for it because I listened to a little bit of Lana Del Rey, um, when all of her songs first came out, and I didn't enjoy it that much. So I've been very dismissive of Lana Del Rey since. But I think enough people have said positive things to me about Lana Del Rey that I should maybe re-examine whether I should be so dismissive and give it a crack.
Goddamn man child.
There you go.
That's a Lana Del Rey.
Just went straight over my head. Not gonna
Yeah, I
lie,
don't know why I did it.
I did
'cause
just
obviously
tell you
just
I haven't listened
literally
to
spent 5 minutes telling me how you'd never listened to Lana Del Rey for me to quote a Lana Del Rey song at
Indeed.
you. Yeah, all right, yeah, let's do that one then.
Well,
Sounds good to me.
fantastic. If anybody wants to join us in on our album book club, album club
Discussion.
discussion. No, I had that. I was trying to get to book club, but I said album and then couldn't remember what the next word was because I probably shouldn't have said book after that. So yeah, our little album club will be live again this time next week on Friday on Twitch / Ballpark Music UK. If you're listening to the recorded version, then give us a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that YouTube jazz, so you can see when we've got another version of this up. As I say, we'll broadcast these live on Fridays, then a recorded version should be going up a couple of days later on YouTube, a few other places.
Sorry if you can hear my cat right now, by the way.
I couldn't hear your cat.
Oh, okay. I'm just apologizing for nothing.
No. Yeah, so if you want more Slope, like I said, you can head over to slopegang.com, find all of their socials there. If you want more Ballpark music after all this, then you can check out our link tree. That is / Ballpark music. All of our socials are on there. We'll be doing a little bit of tweeting. And like I said earlier on as well, we do other streams as well, not just this regular Friday stream. Whenever we are doing some vocal sessions, we'll be streaming those live here on Twitch as well. So give us a follow here. We should be having a session tomorrow as well, actually. I think maybe we hang around afterwards. I did hear the cat that time.
Just as I unmuted because she was going off on one. Yeah, we should hopefully be recording vocals for our upcoming album that we're working on that we completely forgot to mention that we do. When we were talking about projects we're involved in and stuff we do.
See, I took my lead from you on that. I took my lead from you. You didn't mention it, so I thought, okay, no, we're going to leave it for a big reveal. And instead, we've left it for, yeah, no, I guess we're doing that. We just forgot about it.
And we just talk about it every week as our audience builds, and then it'll be this big. It'll be like Who is Brad? We'll have episode 100 album reveal, episode 150 Brad reveal.
Hashtag Who is Brad.
Yeah, hashtag Who is Brad, and episode 200 cat reveal. Actually, do you think we'll get a massive boost in in everything on the YouTube followers if we make the thumbnail me holding a picture of my cat? That seems to work for everyone else.
I did meant to say I don't know if how this works, but we should have made like a thumbnail kind of clip, shouldn't we? Really, at some point we didn't do like a.
That'll be it. There you go. Just
we could be pointing at the album and going like, can you point at it as well, or no? All right, we're good.
I can't see it.
Thumbnail sort of. I forgot about that. Sorry. Yeah, I did forget about that.
You're hosting on the call, thing, man.
Yeah.
All I can see is you.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I mean, you could have drawn some angles with the fingers, but anyway.
I don't even know which way. Is it that way?
No, other side. Other side. So just where my fingers are pointing. There you go.
Quality viewing.
It's all falling apart. I thought we had a really good kind of flow going here, and then we've just thrown it away right at the end. I think the only way to remedy this is for me to start playing the outro music here. Which
I think that might be a good shout. And say hello to Phoebe.
Hey Phoebe, how you doing? Doing all right. I can't seem to get the this is all falling apart. I can't seem to get the outro music playing. So what we're going to do, we are going to say goodnight from Ballpark Music. Thank you so much for coming along and joining us for our very first album discussion. Cam, thank you so much. I've had a lot of fun. Hope you have too.
Yeah, it's been great. I always enjoy hanging out with you, man.
And we'll be
talking
here.
Music and whatnot.
And we'll be here this time next week doing it all again. All right. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. See you later.